Hello everyone. In the previous lecture, we familiarized ourselves with the theory of Guna, conceptualized by Bharata and Bhāmaha. In this context, we saw how various literary works written long before the beginning of literary theory, such as the Ramayana, anticipated the theory of Guna. We noticed that the theory of Guna made its first appearance in Bharata's Natya Shastra. In this context, we discussed the 10 gunas mentioned by Bharata. Although Bharata listed the 10 gunas and talked about it in detail, this theory was not given much attention to by many literary theoreticians who followed Bharata. The next major theoretician that we saw was Bhāmaha. Bhāmaha hardly paid any attention to the theory of Guna. He in fact reduced the number of gunas from 10 to 3. This was not because Bhāmaha thought that other gunas could be included in these 3 gunas. It was just because Bhāmaha did not consider gunas as important constituents of a kavya or a work of literature. The 3 gunas mentioned by Bhāmaha were Madhurya, Ojas and Prasada. In addition to these 3 gunas, Bhāmaha also mentioned what we can call a Prabandha guna, or a guna that is applicable to the literary work as a whole. The name of this guna was Bhaviha. We wrapped up the class by saying that the theory of guna again gained a rebirth in the theoretical corpus of Daṇḍin, who in his Kavyadarsha once again listed and talked about the 10 gunas or poetic merits. At this juncture, we need to remember that Daṇḍin's adherence to Bharata is only in listing the names of the gunas. He often redefines Bharata's definitions of many gunas. Daṇḍin observes that the presence of all the 10 gunas mentioned by him are absolutely essential in the composition of any good work of literature. We also see the distinction between gunas and alankaras first in Daṇḍin's Kavyadarsha. Daṇḍin's discussion of gunas is specifically in connection with his treatment of the idea of style or marga, which is equivalent to the theory of Ridi, later conceptualized by Vamana. He mentions 2 margas or styles in Kavyadarsha, namely Vaidarbhi and Gaudi. Daṇḍin is of the view that all the 10 gunas are found only in the Vaidarbhi style, while Gaudi has only 2 gunas, viz. Ojas and Kanti. According to Daṇḍin, gunas are the special features of the body of Kavya or Kavya Sharira. He opines that from a very functional point of view, we can call it an alankara. Here, the word alankara should not be taken to mean individual figure of speech. He calls gunas asatharana alankaras or non-ordinary ornaments. Here the word alankara is used in a general sense to mean anything that adds beauty to a poem. If all the gunas can be treated as an alankara or a device decorating the poem, then can we treat all the alankaras as gunas? Daṇḍin does not take up this question. From this, we need to assume that there is a subtle distinction between gunas and alankaras, although Daṇḍin does not get into this great discussion. Let's take a look at the 10 gunas mentioned by Daṇḍin. These 10 gunas mentioned by Daṇḍin include Shlesha, Prasada, Samada, Madhurya, Saukumarya, Arthavyakti, Udarata, Ojas, Kanti and Samadhi. Shlesha is the smooth combination of words. The quality wherein one will be able to understand the meaning of a word without much labor is called Prasada. At this point, Daṇḍin says that the followers of Gaudiya style does not follow this style or this guna. They reject this merit and often use obsolete words whose meaning is not at all popular. The followers of the Gaudiya Marga often conjoin various words, often words which are not so popular, to convey their meaning. Daṇḍin does not favor this method. The next quality that Daṇḍin talks about is samatha. Samatha is the quality which arises out of the employment of using the same style from the beginning to the end of the prabandha or a poetic composition. Samatha is the absence of unevenness in syllabic structure or bandha swara vishamam. It is the adherence to a particular arrangement of letters or varna vinyasa. Daṇḍin observes that there must be an evenness between the beginning and the end of a stanza in terms of the arrangement of letters or syllables. That is to say, if a passage begins with soft vocables, it must definitely end with the same syllabic structure. Daṇḍin lists three kinds of such structure or bandha, namely the structure which contains only soft or mridu syllables, the structure which contains only harsh or spuda, and finally the structure which contains temperate or mixed or madhyama syllables. Madhurya is the ability of a word or a group of words to generate rasa. Daṇḍin talks about the two important ways in which Madhurya Guna can be achieved. First by Anuprasa and secondly by Agramyatva. It should be noted that here the word Anuprasa does not mean mere alliteration. It is the repetition of words which take the same place of utterance and effort for pronunciation. The second aspect that the poet has to mind to achieve Madhurya is the absence of Gramyata or cultural unsophistication. How to avoid Gramyata or uncouthness? Daṇḍin talks about it in detail using an example. According to Daṇḍin, the expression, "Hey maiden, why don't you love me who love you a lot," is a Gramya or uncouth or unsophisticated expression, as it explicitly expresses a man's desire for a woman. For him, this is devoid of rasa or attractiveness. But on the other hand, if we say, "The god of love, that cruel person, is pitiless to me, but he holds no grudge to you, my pretty-eyed lass," then the sense is sophisticated and it generates rasa. This appears striking to the readers and contains Madhurya Guna. According to Daṇḍin, this quality will enchant the sympathetic readers in the same way the honey enchants the bees. Here, we need to note that Daṇḍin's definition of Madhurya is quite distinct from Bharata's definition of it. According to Bharata, Madhurya is the quality of a verse to remain sweet even after many repetitions. Daṇḍin connects this with the idea of rasa and says that Madhurya is the ability of a word or a group of words to generate rasa. Saukumarya is the quality that is found in compositions which do not have harsh sounding words. According to Daṇḍin, the poets who follow the style called Vaidarpi accepts Sukumarata, which contains soft words, while the Gaudas have a special predilection for the guna called Ojas. Poets who take the Gauda Marga usually do not mind if their poetry consists of words which require much strain for pronunciation. The guna called Arthavekti refers to the clarity of meaning. It is the absence of a fault called Nayartha, which refers to a word or a sentence whose meaning can only be guessed by the reader. According to Daṇḍin, both the Gaudi and Vaidarpi styles do not wish to have Nayartha in their poetic composition. Udara Guna inheres in a noble speech. In other words, it's a quality that comes out of the employment of noble speech. Udarata is a quality that is said to be present in all the margas. Here also, Daṇḍin makes a deviation from the definition of Bharata. According to Bharata, Udarata is the ability to present rasas like Shringara, and this is achieved by the arrangement of words. For Daṇḍin, Udara is noble speech. Ojas is the next quality or guna that he is talking about. Ojas is the compactness of word structure due to the employment of compounds. This is a quality that is present in both the margas. In the Vaidarbha marga, it is the soul of prose. In Gauda marga, it serves as the soul of poetry. This particular variety, says Daṇḍin, has many varieties. According to Daṇḍin, this is a quality that one can find in Nakhyayika and Champu. Kanti is the use of well-known words of which the meaning is quite known to all. It is the presentation of ideas in such a way that it does not transgress the boundary of ordinary possibilities. This excellence, we are told, is generally found in Varta and Varnana. In this context, the word Varta refers to the praise or prashamsa vachana. This use of the word Varta is quite different from the way in which it is used by Bhāmaha. Bhāmaha uses the term Varta in cases where Vakrokti is absent, such as the sun has set, the birds are flying back to nest, etc. The Varnana may be taken to mean Vastu Swarupa Nirnaya, or the description of things as they are in the world. This is a quality favored by the poets following the Vaidarbhi style, whereas the Gaudas, who love exaggerated ideas transcending ordinary possibilities, do not favor this guna. Here we will note that Daṇḍin's definition of Kanti differs from that of Bharata. For Bharata, Kanti is the ability of a poem to entertain the readers. According to Bharata, the quality called Kanti enchants the heart of the readers as the moon enchants the hearts of the people. For Daṇḍin, Kanti is the quality that arises out of the use of well-known words of which the meaning is known to all. Samadhi is the superimposition of the qualities of one object onto another object, which is quite distinct from the former. According to Daṇḍin, the quality called Samadhi lies at the heart of a poem, and it has to be followed by all poets. Here also, we will note that Bharata's definition of Samadhi is different. For Bharata, the quality called Samadhi is attained if the meaning of the verse is so elegant that the scholars find it non-ordinary. When it comes to Daṇḍin, Samadhi turns out to be the superimposition of the qualities of one object onto another, which is quite distinct from the former object. In other words, in Daṇḍin, it is the metaphorical usage. After Daṇḍin, the next literary theoretician who we are going to talk about is actually Udbhaṭa. As we all know, Udbhaṭa in his Kavyalankara Sara Samgraha does not say anything about the question of gunas, since it is a short work on the idea of alankara or figures of speech. If one wants to know what Udbhaṭa thinks about gunas, one necessarily needs to take a look at his Bhāmaha Vivarana. Although it's a lost work, his ideas on guna in this work are available to us through the citations from this work reproduced by Anandavardhana, Abhinavagupta, Mammada, Manikyachandra and Hemachandra. According to Udbhaṭa, there is no essential difference between gunas and alankaras, since both of them are elements which add to the beauty of kavya. He is of the view that it is people who follow blind traditionalism who say that both of them are two different entities. He does not see alankara as something external to kavya. He is of the view that gunas and alankaras subsist in kavya. This stand is definitely against the dominant view that while gunas are internal, alankaras are external to the work. It might have been to refute Udbhaṭa's view that there is no difference between gunas and alankaras, that Vamana, his contemporary, tried to distinguish these two. Udbhaṭa also thinks that gunas are sankhadana dharmas, or the function of this style. Now it's time to wrap up the class. In this section, we primarily saw the views of two literary theoreticians, namely Daṇḍin and Udbhaṭa. In Daṇḍin's Kavyadarsha, we saw a resurrection of the idea of Guna, which was neglected previously by Bhāmaha. We saw that Daṇḍin mentions 10 gunas in his Kavyadarsha. All these 10 gunas are as same as the ones mentioned by Bharata in his Natyashastra, although Daṇḍin's definition of these gunas differs a little. Daṇḍin's discussion of guna is associated with his discussion of margas or styles. After Daṇḍin, we saw Bhatta Udbhaṭa's approach to the question of guna. The most important aspect that we need to note in Udbhaṭa's theory is that Udbhaṭa does not make a distinction between gunas and alankaras. He is of the view that both are elements that add charm to poetic beauty, and there is no need to make a distinction between these two. According to him, it is people who follow the tradition blindly who come up with this distinction. In the next class, we will see Vamana, who made revolutionary contributions to the theory of guna. To understand the theory of guna conceptualized by Vamana, you may please revise all the major points that we discussed so far. Thank you.